speaking on the topic Managing Multiple Departments with Ease, CFO Playbook. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Ms. Meenakshi Dagar, who is India CFO for Lenovo. Giving a brief introduction, Meenakshi, a chartered accountant, former Math Olympiad participant, and silver medalist today, is the CFO of Lenovo India. She is responsible for leading the India finance team and has handled multiple roles over the past 6 years with Lenovo. She has been instrumental in driving business synergies and P&L results across several positions within India and Asia Pacific region. With this, let's welcome Meenakshi with a big round of applause.
Yeah, fine. Thank you for having me here on the stage today. And when I was asked actually about this presentation of managing multiple departments with ease, and if I were to say on a scale of 10 or 10 is the best, I think it's impossible to achieve 10 or 10. I don't know, I think most of us are finance here. Do we agree? I have not achieved in my life. So if I end up saying that it's 10 or 10, probably it's not going to be true. But I think as we do our day-to-day task, if we are able to get, let's say, a scale of 5 or 10, I think it's still a decent achievement. If we are at 1 or 2 on 10, then obviously there's a lot which we need to improve in our day-to-day work life. CFO is someone, and I have a couple of slides, I can leave them as food for thought, as a prototype of what a playbook look like. And let me tell you, when I was asked about the topic, I did put many of these things together. And I realized in the process that yes, probably we are doing something similar to having a playbook, but not many of us do it in a very structured way that a playbook is needed for me to really plan my week, plan my month, and plan my day. But I think it's a very good thought for us to do that. As a CFO, I do have another 15 and 16 leaders other than me in India leadership team of Lenovo. And there are many occasions when I feel sometimes it's 1:16. And sometimes it's 1 and 16 behind, because there will be your strength standing behind you and doing everything what is needed for the organization to achieve what organization wants to drive. But I think being a CFO, we do carry a lot of responsibilities. We do carry responsibilities that you have to know the organizational objective. You will have to ensure that your team keep rest of the stakeholders honest, diligent, and authentic, not to digress, and to keep all the focus aligned to what organization trying to achieve. And this do not mean that rest of the stakeholders do not carry the responsibility or they do not know the R&R. But I think somewhere finance has that role to play, that how do we keep rest of the organization honest? And that's where I think to begin with my first slide counts, that this is how I see sometimes my day. And I was being asked a question, it happens to me many a times, right? On a Sunday night, I will be sitting looking at my emails that how my week gonna look like, how my Monday 9 a.m. when I enter in the office, what my priority is gonna be, and how I'm gonna give directions to my team, how I'm gonna give decisions to my business stakeholders, and there is no easy answers. But what is needed, what I'm trying to display in this chart is that all of us do acknowledge CFO office is very critical. If I have to tell my business heads, if I have to tell my functional heads, if I have to tell my CEO that these are the priorities which we need to do, for me to know the complexity is very important. And this is what this chart display, that it does not mean that I have like 8 or 16 hands, or I can listen multiple people and do the multitasking, but noting down everything is very important, right? And these are the functions which within Lenovo I feel even in my role are important. I'm sure for all of you, you could have a similar chart and you could have different priorities and different functions and different things to note down. But to know some of the critical areas, and I'm not going to talk through all, but I'm going to talk through few which are very critical in our role. Controllership and FP&A, this is the core part of our job. If you have your business finance team, if you have your FP&A team who is doing budgeting, forecasting, it's very critical to give them the guidance and to give them the direction. What I try to do, especially for these two teams who will be there with business all the time on calls, and sometimes I'll be searching them, guys, you're my team, I need time with you, but they'll be busy all the time with the business. So for them to know what are the 2-3 key priorities which they will be answerable for you to take the P&L ownership. It's very important, and decide that, and those can be very customized to what I'm expecting from my team, what my boss is expecting, and what my business is expecting, and what my organization is expecting. Define those for you. Important is for the team to know. On the functions, what I meant here, that I do have multiple functions reporting into me. There is accounts payable, there is accounts receivable, there is accounting, there is business controls, there is taxation. Can I be present all the 5 days in those functions, giving them the directions, doing the task? No. What I try to do, what worked for me, that having the right people in those positions who can take a lot of load of day-to-day transactions and the day-to-day business. And then eventually you are there, of course, to have the right level of BMS and the right level of frequency. Apart from that, other, I think, priorities are quite common. Compliance, adaptability will be needed. But at the bottom too, these are again very, very important for me. When I sit back and look at the BMS, right, we are reviewing the weekly reports, weekly performance, we are doing the monthly reviews, monthly performance. But who will take the task of forward looking? That how's the organization, and this is not just the sole responsibility of CFO. Of course, CEO and the business stakeholders are equally important, but sometimes we can be that driver in the organization that, fine, you're seeing your today is like this, you're seeing your month is like this, you're seeing your quarter is like this, but can I always have a plan which is forward-looking? Can I always have a thinking which is forward-looking? Can I make the organization always ready, which will take tasks, which will do things which are probably 6 months or 1 year ahead? And this is something which at Lenovo, we don't do just for this quarter or just for this year or just in the annual planning. Always there will be a forward-looking plan that how does the organization look like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years and 3 years down the line. CFO do play a very important role to keep all the stakeholders always that visionary, always that forward-looking view. And the leadership and talent pipeline are very, very connected. That if I do not have obviously the right next level of leadership to me, then I will end up doing even their tasks. So how do you create the right pipeline? How do you create your own successor? How do you create your next level of successor? And how do you play that leadership role who keeps the entire organization culture together? And culture is a lot about driving the integrity, authenticity, and driving everything which is needed on the compliance. CFO do play a role. So yeah, I think when you have these many things to be done, and there was one time that my CEO, and until then I didn't realize I'm doing a good job, that we were, on the airport and doing a 101 in the car. And he asked me that, Meenakshi, how are you doing your priorities? Like you always know, these are the things which you need to do in the next 5 days, or these are the things you need to do in the next 30 days. And I hardly see you missing on the priorities. Then I realized there's one task which I do if it works for all of us, or you find your own method of doing it, that on Sunday night, always sit for 1 or 2 hours. And I note down that for the next week, these are the 3 things which will not miss my eyes. These have to happen in whatever part. Sometimes could be in business, sometimes it could be in your function, but very, very important, given that you'll have to deal all these complexities in the organization. Now the next slide. So what another thing which I do as a BAU in my role is that, and this keeps changing, guys, right? This list cannot be always, all-inclusive. But it's very important that if I'm driving the financial year 22-23, what are my key challenges in this year? Which will call for beyond a BAU thinking of me, which will call for involving my stakeholders into differentiated thinking and things which needs to be done differently. And this list can be very, very different for all of us. I come, all my experience from the ITS industry. So by now, obviously, I know what are the complexities which are going to come. And sometimes the complexities evolve as the progress of the quarter and the year happens. So few things to talk about again from this slide. And as I'm saying, this is not the all inclusive list. For your industry, it could be very, very different. Whatever industry we come from, I'm sure all of us are expert of our industries. But example for ITS industry today, we used to be having a 8 million TAM in the market in India. In the COVID period, the TAM went to 16 million. What this means is that our revenue also has doubled because the industry TAM has doubled. One thing which I missed as a CFO, I didn't look at that maybe I should have invested long enough. I should have invested for the capacity which was future ready, and we are trying to catch up because that was a period all of us were thinking what needs to be done. Suddenly you were selling 200,000 PCs and in the next quarter you had to sell 400,000. The time to react was not enough, right? So learning from that you have scaled your business from 1x to 2x to 3x, now you're in the cost pressure, right? So this is a new challenge which has evolved, and there is nothing when you're so thin on your expense structure, what more can be done? And I'm realizing every day sitting on my table that BAU thinking will not get you the optimization. Just by cutting few headcounts in the organization or maybe looking into the procurement function is not something which is going to get you. So very big challenge, but of course we'll have to do a lot of structural, very strategic thinking that how the next 5 years for us going to be, given that we are very, very thin on the expense structure. Third point, which is so relevant for us, is connected to this example, that when we were going on the revenue from 1x to 3x, we were not greedy and we did not go back to the group that, okay, give me 3x expenses. No, it's not that I was spending 50 million and I said as a CFO, now I'll start spending $150 million. That did not happen. Maybe the 50 million went to 60 million and now the revenue is declining because the COVID period is over, the TAM is on a reverse trend. In finance, also we have not invested. So my team is the same what it was pre-COVID, it is the same today, but the size of the business have changed. The complexity of the business has changed because what used to be route to market earlier, like the e-tail, was not such an evolving route. Multiple new entrants coming into the industry and putting a cost pressure, putting a pricing pressure on us was not the challenge 2-3 years back. So you will realize that every new year, there is a new challenge. You have the same finance team. You need to support, you need to optimize, and you will have to play on expected KPIs. So how do you deal with this challenge, which is the same headcount, the same capacity, but you will have to deliver all your KPIs, which will only become more and more challenging with every passing year. Complex business model. This is something which, again, it applies to IT industry today, the whole ITS industry, and I'm sure all of us are reading the news around cost optimization, slowness, and things like that. Why is it coming? Because we do have a lot of new entrants in our industry. We do have a lot of government regulations coming our way. I'm sure some of you are updated about the import bans and etc. And the route which is there, which exists today, is getting more and more complex. So pre-COVID, if I had a 10% e-tail business, today it is 35 to 40%, and the pricing models are turning very, very dynamic. That in our industry, we used to change monthly pricing, but today we have to react to the pricing almost on a daily basis. So that's adding to the complexity. What this list is basically for you to really connect back to that, how do you manage not just the multiple department, but the multiple complexity, for you to be aware that what are your top 5 or top 6 or top 3 or top 4 challenge, which you need to solve is very important. And when all of you make your playbook, it can be very different than what it's looking for me. But for me, this is how it looks like. That to know is very important. How do you react? Could be a strategy, could be a plan which we need to make for us to really solve that. Moving next. So what I do, actually, there is an organization objective, and I got into the CFO role for Lenovo India, I think 2.5 years back. I came on role and I realized that there is an organization objective and organization KPI and the priority. But if I leave this role, let's say 3-4 years down the line, what is the legacy I'm going to leave in the role? What will Meenakshi be known for? Which is what I've done in all my roles in the last 17-18 years. That if I've done a role in XYZ organization, playing XYZ role, in future, if I want to be known that this is how Meenakshi has done it, or this was Meenakshi's legacy, or this was this CFO's legacy, right? What will that be? So what I did along with my team, and this is a CFO vision statement, which I wanted my entire team to really agree and be a party to drive and deliver this together. That what do we want to be known for? We want to be known for obviously someone who is a growth enabler, investing, focusing on automation, and having the analytics, which is very much needed for us to really drive the optimal decision making and rest of the priorities. So for me, this slide is like a Bible. It will not change for next 3 years. And if I can achieve out of all the points listed here, even 2-3 of this, I think that's the legacy I would want to leave. So as a CFO, I do feel it's so important for all of us having a vision, which again correlate back to what organization is expecting from you, and then having your team aligned to this vision, having their buying in, and they all working towards in the same direction, and we are not like dysfunctional or a team which is not connected to each other. So this is what something which is personally for me, but important that all of us can define objective in a vision like this. The next one which I do in my, when I plan my year, when I plan my quarter, and again, when I plan my week, that what are the big bets I need to focus. I have a team of, I think, close to 35 members, and if I include the extended 50 members, I can't keep a tracking on what each one of them is doing, and I don't need to. Likewise, I have business head 16 as their direct, and then, their next direct, if I add, it's going to total up to 34, 35. And many a times it happens that I have entered Monday morning 9 a.m. in the office, and I'm leaving probably 8:39, and I would realize whatever my priorities of the morning were are not delivered by the end of the day. And that's where I pull back myself. That Meenakshi, you're doing things throughout the day, but you have not achieved what you wanted to achieve in this day, or you have not achieved what you wanted to achieve in this week, in the day. So for us to really ensure that you do what stakeholders are expecting from you, and finance is one function which can be present in 1,000 meetings in the organization. But if you choose to have your priority, you can still manage maybe with 10% of your presence in those meetings. This is a realization for me from this sheet, that what will be my big bets and how do I choose those big bets? That's to make an impact to the CFO mission and the vision which I'm trying to drive for my team and for my organization. So on these 8 big bets, again, I'm going to talk very few, because this, as I said, my experience is from ITS industry, and some of you may be able to connect to it, some of you not. But if you sit through and look back of your own industry and your own challenges, I'm sure you'll find the similarity in the format and the way playbook is drawn. So for me, these are the things which I felt, and I think the earlier session was very interesting, right? Know your business. If I'm sitting across to the business, and I'll give you one example. On this one, so our industry is quite dependent on the dollar fluctuation. I've seen the industry moving from a 40 rupee to a 83 rupee. And then we also have cost trends which keep changing every month and every year. And I'm in the CFO position, and there is one sales account manager who's debating with my team an upward escalation. He said, and he didn't want to face a customer, a very prestigious customer in Bangalore, based out of Bangalore. And they're having very logical conversation that, the dollar has increased, the cost has increased, please go and tell the customer we need to increase the price. And the sales account person of mine did not have the courage, and then finally the escalation came to me, Meenakshi, please approve the price. And I picked up the phone and I talked to this person. I said, did you meet the customer? He said, no, Meenakshi, no matter I say, he's not going to listen to me. And I had a very busy day. I said, can you get me an appointment tomorrow with them? And it was, I think, from our office 2 hours. So I took the sales account manager along with me. We went to the customer office. We actually had 3 hours meeting. And this was a customer who makes better money when the currency depreciates, because they could be in the IT industry, a lot of offshore dependency. And I pulled out a lot of public information, not Lenovo information, that how the industry works, how is the currency moving, how is the cost trend moving. After 2.5 hours conversation, the customer was convinced. He obviously did not give us the order immediate. That had to follow through after 1 or 2 weeks. He increased the price by 8% because he was logical, he was convinced. What my account team did not have is the courage to go and talk to the customer. That's where it is so important, and this is what I tell my team, that don't be just someone who is playing on the Excel. If you cannot give a logic to the sales, there is nothing which you are adding value to him. All you're saying, looking at the number that I have 100 cost, I need 20% margins, just go and make it happen. Sometimes it's okay to put yourself into their shoes. And that's where, if I were to take a CFO decision, it's so easy. But if I were to take a decision as a CEO, who has much larger responsibility than me, if I have to take a decision as CMO, who has a very different KPI than me, then all of us will end up playing multiple roles. And for CFO to know everything, to know all your stakeholders, to be that optimal decision maker in the organization, which will lead you the next 5, next 10 years, next 20 years growth is very important. Every decision of mine, every decision of CFO in the organization has a very, very big impact. To knowing your stakeholders, knowing your business becomes very, very critical. Otherwise, we are not doing justice to our job. Competitive intelligence and data insights, I think 2 are connected points. Sometimes we feel that this job is, for the marketing team to be done or for the product team to be done. No, I do feel that if CFO is present at least on the critical meetings, and not just the CFO, my next level, if my finance controllers are present, for them to be equally aware about that, what kind of data insights needed. They need to drop a price, and you don't know what your competitive pricing is, and you're making decisions just because somebody has fed you the data and you have looked at Excel into the information, you're not making optimal decision. We did have incidents, and it's not that sales is trying to hide things. It's just that there is so much pressure on every parts of the organization for their KPIs. So for us to be authentic and looking into the data and putting a reality check becomes very, very important. And that means you have to get the right set of data, you have to get the right set of intelligence. I'll pick up the third last point, value versus profit. And this is something many a times what I feel that all of us do sales, right? And what you have is after point of sale, there could be a scenario, I don't care what's happening with the customer. Because whenever after point of sale customer comes, they will always be aggressive. There will always be someone who is, irate customer for whatever reasons. They did not have a great experience. They will be upset with you. My product has gone wrong, this, that, right? And then there is this delegation of authority comes who will say, fine, your product is faulty. And you'll have to go through 7, 8 layers of approvals and so forth. And despite that, we might end up further upsetting the customer. So within the organization, and I'm personally a strong believer of that I do believe that yes, you should have a mindset for the profitability, but what you should have a mindset for the long-term profitability, and that's where only a happy customer can give you the revenue. No unhappy customer will give you the revenue. All of us look forward for so many programs around the customer loyalty and all, but if as an organization I can drive the mindset of customer first approach in the organization and say that if there is an unhappy customer which has come to the organization, it is not my CX team problem, it is not my sales problem, it is as equal problem of the CFO or of the finance organization sitting in the organization and making those financial decisions, that I will have to ensure I deliver the required amount of satisfaction needed by this customer, be it replacing the product, be it ensuring that your policies are fast enough to make the decision, ensure your customers are happy. And that's the long-term longevity which all of us have to see, that what you need finally. You need a value, you don't need profit. If you have the value, the profit will come your way. Every happy customer I have not seen not sticking to the organization and not giving you the revenue and profit. They will always give you. So that's very critical for us to have the priority. And the second last, I think, or in fact, I'm going to talk both the points which are at the bottom. Managing stress, right? When you sit, and we do have a lot, I have a lot. I mean, every day in the ITS industry, you will hear new challenge coming your way. But if you're sitting in front of the problem, and this is what many a times I tell my team, I tell my business, suddenly they'll come running, sellout has dropped, we need to make a decision, and the only decision we can make is drop the price, which is the easiest, right? That go and sell in the market. But when you sit in front of the problem and you keep your antennas straight, you will only see that. And I've seen that in so many live practical conversations. But if you just, rotate it 360 degree, in the same problem, you'll find, oh, I have not seen this. This route of the market is in stress. There are another routes I have not seen it. And this might sound very basic. I'm sure all of us have so much experience to know that this is so basic. But I do find many a times those basics missing. That if you're sitting in a stress, you're sitting in a problem, there is so much for you to learn from that crisis. And the best learning all of us have is only in the crisis. When anything new has to open in the organization, be it your revenue work stream, be it your profit work stream, be it any new line of businesses, it will come from the crisis. At least in my practical experience, I have seen 60% of the innovation comes from the crisis, and those are very, very important for us to deal in the right way, and for your team to align and keep in your priority that take crisis always as an opportunity and not that, oh, what has happened, sorry, how am I going to deal with it? That approach will not help. The last one, which I think all the time business expects from us, when there is a presentation we are doing to a team who is not technically as good in the financial aspect as all of us, what is needed? And I have, I think, handled almost 5 or 6 CEOs, different individuals in my career so far. All of them asked only one thing, not just from me, my entire team, that keep things simple. Even if you're telling me the numbers, I don't have to know your entire, A to Z story. You tell me that these are the 3 things, they need to make a note from that presentation so that you are able to articulate. And as a finance, as a CFO, it's our job to tell our business head, to tell our functional head, to tell our CEOs that these are the 2-3 things from this number story which you will have to make a note, and you have to get me the help to ensure that the organization is aligned and they work on it. So that's how I think, so these are some of the examples which makes my life easy. But I do keep this cheat sheet always with me, that these are my priorities, and these are not like static. These keep changing depending on what the priority in the period of time and the year is going to come. But this is, I think, just a prototype of the playbook, what it looks like. what my own experience tells that this can change almost every day. I mean, similar to managing the multiple complexity, but it's a good food for thought that all of us have to know the priority. Otherwise, people will expect having those 16 hands working in the multiple direction and we feeling lost at the end of the day. But this, something like this, I mean, it has helped me. I hope it is useful for all of you too.